I said, let's get started, okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you all for coming out this morning or afternoon or evening, depending on which part of the world you are, which time zone. Thank you for joining us. We have E. Saw with us today. E is the Director of Education Council at MIT. He's also Associate Director of MIT Admissions. And E will make a presentation on highlights, updates on MIT, what's happening, and some highlights about MIT's admissions. As all of you or a lot of you know, MIT just released the early action decisions for the class of 2030 last evening. I was fortunate two of my interviewees have been admitted. I'm so delighted for them. My name is Gurumurthy Kalyanram. I'm a doctoral alumnus of MIT, and I want to welcome you on behalf of the New York Sloan Alumni Club and the New York MIT Club, the larger community, and MIT South Asian Alumni Association, which is global and distributed. Thank you all for coming, and I'm going to now hand it over to E. He will make a presentation, and then we'll have a conversation with him. It'll be nice if you can type your questions in the chat. We can go through, I can go through, he can go through, and we can also do open mic conversation, but that may be a good way to begin. Thank you, E. It's all yours. Thank you.
Hey, hi. Thanks, everybody, and welcome. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I'm going to share screen. Can everyone see a presentation? Okay. All right. So many of you are probably familiar with MIT. So the focus is going to be more about, I think, important updates in case you have not heard about them. And there's really too hard to cover a great institution like MIT in 30 minutes. So hopefully there's enough information here that you can do more research or highlight that for other people who you think might be interested. So that's really the purpose. All right, and then I have a bunch of topics here, and most of it is going to be hopefully, excites you to learn more about what MIT is doing in these different areas, and some are very important for all of us. So the first thing I want to really jump to, I want to make sure there's one thing you take away from this presentation, and that you want to share with other families, students, high school counselors, teachers who might be interested in MIT is the improved financial aid that MIT is offering. So to the bottom line, if a student's family makes $100,000 in US dollars, so if you're an international student, convert that to US dollars. So if the family makes 100,000 US dollars gross income a year or less and has typical assets, that family does not have to pay anything for their child to attend MIT. That covers a large percentage of families in the world. And if your family makes 200,000 US dollars gross income a year with typical assets, your family does not have to pay tuition. And tuition is, about $64,000 a year, which is significant. And so these are great improvements that MIT is offering for financial aid. And just to show that this really works, it's not just some statistics we throw out there. If you go to our financial aid website, 39% of our undergrads, we have about 4,500 some undergrads, 39% of our undergrads paid no tuition. So our financial aid is really important and is helping our students to be able to afford and to get a great education at MIT. So if there's one thing I hope you remember and you could share so that if there's students or families out there who think MIT is economically out of reach, please share this information with them. This might make it, much more affordable for them and maybe even a better alternative than some of the other colleges that they're considering. All right. With that, then I also want to highlight a few things that I've been doing admissions now for 6.5 years, and it constantly amazes me at some of the things that we do for our students. So I also want to share some of these things because I think it is such a differentiator what a student at MIT can get. So first, I just want to highlight the advising. So, you go to a great school, they're great colleges all over the United States. Yes, they're great courses, labs, facilities, but the advising is also extremely important. Students come in, graduating high school, they do such great transformation in the 4 years, and then they go out to the world. And advising is a huge part of it. So I want to highlight the specialness of how MIT approaches advising. First of all, as you know, MIT does not have a major first-year students do not have a major in the first year, so they do not have a departmental advisor in the first year. They may happen to have a volunteer by chance, but it's not done on purpose. But we have all of these ways, if you look up first-year advising of how all the different alternatives our first-year students can select on how they want to be advised. They could be advised because there's a seminar that an instructor is teaching that they find really interesting. So they will be advised by that instructor or professor. There's the traditional way, which is a volunteer, a faculty member, a staff member, et cetera, could volunteer and they could be assigned that way. So that's how I have been a first year advisor for the past 5 years. Or they have something we call learning communities. We have certain students who are very interested or strong in certain fields of interest already. And they could choose to belong to a community first year, and they would be advised by instructors in that area. And more importantly, they'll have an instant community. And right now, our learning communities exist in humanities. So if you're interested in humanities, we have a learning community called Concourse. If you're very interested in environmental sustainability, we have a learning community called Terrascope. And then if you're very interested in art, architecture, and design, we have another one called Design Plus.
I can't hear you saying.
And then,
Oh,
oops, sorry, if you could mute yourself. And then we have a final fourth learning community called Experimental Study Group, which is not field of interest based, but it's the learning style. Those classes are quite small, 3 to 8 people. So you're learning with each other rather than lectures. So these learning communities are really a great way for first-year students to assimilate and, more importantly, develop and enhance their interest. And then, so many of these learning communities have existed for a long time, but I feel like they're a hidden gem. Not enough people know about them, and that's why I'm highlighting it here. I really think they are quite differentiated from other places. And what is new at MIT in the last few years, based on Task Force 2021, is we want to further and continue to improve undergraduate advising. So with that, we have a brand new building. You'll see pictures of it coming up in Building 11, right at the beginning of the Infinite Corridor. It's a fantastic building that centralizes many of the things related to undergraduates, whether it's research, career, tutoring, finding a way, wellness. It's all centralized in one place. And more importantly, we want to enhance advising for undergraduates even after the first year. So after the first year, most students get a departmental faculty. That's great for your academic interests, but that's not the only thing to be successful during going through college. Wellness, how to get jobs, how do you network, all of those other important skills are still very important for success. So we have created now a whole undergraduate advising infrastructure where an undergrad will have more than just departmental faculty advisor. They will have another advisor with them for their whole time at MIT. And they will learn stuff about careers in certain industries, et cetera. So this is, stay tuned for this area. This is developing. We've only been in this for a couple of years, but this is one of the major efforts to improve advising for undergraduates. And with that, I want to jump into some of the updates. Just MIT, we've been around for over 100 some years, but we're absolutely not static. And, we are a total package, if you will. I just mentioned we enhancing our advising. And right there, here's the new building that we built to make that a great facility so that students will come and drop in get tutored, get advice, listen to seminars, webinars, etc. So this is the brand. So if you haven't been on campus, I really encourage you to visit this. It has opened just, this year. And that's my dog, by the way. I took her there before fall semester just to check it out before the students go there. It is a really futuristic looking site. So it's wonderful that our students will have a great place to congregate. And for some of you, especially if you're East Campus alum, the 2-year renovation for East Campus has been complete. It opened this fall. Students came back. Just a great facility. Lots of new maker spaces. Lots of new additions were added. So check that out as well. And while East Campus is back, for those of you who may have lived in McCormick, another one of our dorms, that will be scheduled for renovation for the next 2 years. So we are constantly changing, for the better to serve our students. And so here's another brand new building, in case you haven't been there, the Lind Music Building, right behind Kresge. So this is a great place now to help centralize performance, rehearsal, and technology, all things related to music. And music is one of the most popular field of study for our students. So many of our students choose minors or concentrations in music. So it is one of the most popular courses at MIT. So this is a great facility. And MIT has introduced a music technology master's degree for the first time. So all this building is directly enabling some of these great initiatives. And, the concert hall is configurable, and some of the very famous professional musicians in the world have performed there. The student centers, so for those of you who've been on campus before, it's been around for decades, and inside has been renovated. So it looks, very different. Over the last couple of years, the 3rd floor, we have a well-being lab there. The newest thing we added this year is we have a brand new marketplace, a grocery and marketplace in the 1st floor. So again, constantly making changes as we see the need. And the last thing I want to highlight that's updating, on campus, this is still under construction, but every day if you walk by Vassar and Mass Ave, the corner of the warehouse, it keeps changing, and it looks like that from the outside. The inside should be done, by next year sometime. Oops, sorry. And this is going to be a fantastic place for the future home of School of Architecture and Design and Planning. So definitely stay tuned for this opening. All right, so those are some of the more, so financial aid, big change at MIT, constant building updates with a purpose of why we're updating those things. And then I also want to say, even our academic study, we don't stand still. So these are some of the brand new majors that we have introduced, sort of in the last 10 years or so. And so, for example, New York Times just last few weeks picked up that the new course 6.4, Artificial Intelligence and Decision Making, is now the 2nd most popular major at MIT for undergrads. So again, it's not to say that, oh my God, MIT is only teaching algorithms in 2022 for AI. No, we've had algorithm classes for a long time. This is a holistic approach to teaching our students about the impact, social, impact of artificial intelligence, not just in computer science, but in many, many other disciplines. So MIT is constantly on the lookout for what is the world going to, what are the important things we want our students to focus on. And again, we don't stand still. For those of you who've been in course 6, Electrical Engineering, Computer Science, it has really been revamped. We completely changed the course numbering system in 2022 and requirements. And then in 2024, we sort of stopped course 6.1 and 6.2 for future students. And we introduced a new major, course 6.5. So again, we look at the world and we adapt. Okay, this is one thing I also feel like it's maybe a hidden gem for MIT. Many other colleges highlight study abroad, things like that. I always liked MIT's way about doing things abroad because we don't just have students study abroad. In fact, we probably don't have that many students study abroad. But what we do have is many, many students who do research abroad, internships abroad, teach abroad, and through this umbrella called MISTY. So anything that deals with going abroad, international, falls under the umbrella of MISTY. So there's a one-stop shop. You go there and you can look for the type of activities that you want to do. And I think the big difference for MIT students doing things abroad from many other colleges is our students get paid most of the time when they go abroad. So if you're a parent, you know, in other colleges, when you study abroad, you're still paying most likely for your child to study abroad. Whereas through the Misty platform, our students tend to get paid. So the income they earn usually can cover their travel, living, and food expenses, and they probably make a little bit of money over. So it's a fantastic way that our students use to go abroad. And we have country experts who try to help match universities and companies in different countries with our undergrads. And now we have over 40 countries where we have partnerships like this. And I also, again, I'm learning all the time as my advisees and mentees tell me, so many of them, for example, teach abroad during next month, January, when we have independent activities period. If you go to the Misty website and look at what teaching opportunities are there, it's incredible. You have opportunities in Europe, Asia, South America, North America. Some have language requirements, some don't. And our students, including first year students, have the opportunity and they take up this opportunity by going to places like Armenia, Kazakhstan, Cape Verde, all these different places and teach subjects that they are very comfortable and expert and passionate about. So these things happen right in the first year IAP. So it's not something, again, that just stays on a web page. These are actual programs that our students actively participate in. And you can imagine the type of experiences that they can be learning from these activities. Um, and I want to highlight this component as well. MIT may not be, some may disagree, may not be as known or should be as known for our contribution in entrepreneurship. As I think people have shared statistics before, how, MIT alums, students, faculty have created so many companies over the years, probably have contributed, I think I've heard the number like $2 trillion of revenue from the combination of all those companies. In fact, the corner of Vassar and Main Street, I believe, that square mile has some of the greatest contribution to technology innovation in the world, and that leads to companies in the world as well. But here's another great thing for our undergrads. We have something called a Martin Trust Center. We have a great entrepreneurship program, and this is one of their slides that basically, if you're interested to become an entrepreneur, it's not a hit or miss endeavor at MIT. We have a process that will help you become a real entrepreneur. It starts at T=0 when you land at MIT as a first year student, and it ends with the Delta V demo, which is a real company that many of our students have helped create and are part of, and that is the company they will be working for when they leave MIT. And this is an absolute process. It's not like, oh, you got lucky. This is a process, a successful process that we help our students, entrepreneurial bent students, to be successful from the time they land to the time they graduate. So check that out. I was really impressed at how is such a methodical process of how we make successful entrepreneurs for our undergrads. So these are all things that I feel like we could all just share, for the students who are interested in those areas about MIT. And this is another area that I feel like maybe MIT doesn't get enough credit for. We are Division III school, NCAA. We're not Division I, but we have more Division III varsity teams than any other Division III college. And we don't just have teams, we are national champions. So I just want to share some of that with you. So when we're good, our athletes are good. Great. So in the 2024-2025 school year, our women's team, the first time ever to win a Triple Crown, we won the indoor track and field NCAA Division III champion, outdoor track and field, and cross country. So that's 3 national champions. Our women's swimming and diving team also won national champion in that year. And the year before, our men's outdoor track and field won the national champion. So we are, not only do we have many teams, our teams are national champions. So we have roughly 20-25% of our students are varsity athletes. So it is something that may surprise some people about MIT. We have really, really great and talented athletes on campus. All right. And then here, this is again stuff, everything I've shared, you can find on the website. That's where I found them. So these are some statistics about, wow, so seems like MIT has all these great opportunities for our students. And so what happens when they graduate? So here are some of the key statistics. And you could find out a lot more on the website, especially as we get more information about newer classes. But, the average salary is $126,000, 49% go directly to grad school, 44% go to work. 49% to grad school directly, I think is fairly high. But eventually, I think surveys for alums shows roughly 70% will eventually earn an additional graduate degree of some sort. But this is another thing, while not undergrad, but it's actually very attractive for students who want to go to MIT, because for many of our most popular undergraduate degrees, we have a 1-year Master of Engineering program open only to MIT undergrads. So for example, we have a Master of Engineering in Computer Science. You could be the #1 Stanford undergraduate graduate from computer science. You cannot apply and get into that 1-year master's program because you didn't go to MIT for undergrad. So this Master of Engineering program is a great way, I think, and that probably helps contribute why so many of our students go directly to grad school, because why not stay 1 more year, get a master's degree? And by the way, if you get an assistantship for that 1 year, like your TA or RA, you're a full-time grad student. That means you pay nothing and you're going to earn a stipend from your assistantship. So that makes it even more worthwhile just to stick around and get that. So all of these are some of the great benefits of an undergraduate education at MIT. Okay, and here, now I'm going to touch some of the admission stuff. So everything before was what I think are really hidden gems or well-known things about MIT. I just want to highlight why it is such a great opportunity for students to come to MIT and help explore and participate in those platforms. But in terms of admissions to MIT, like many other MIT departments, et cetera, we're quite transparent. We share information. We don't want to hide anything. These are just some of the websites that we share on admissions, where we hope that anyone who is interested in MIT will go through them, have a really good idea of the type of students we look for. In fact, we have a page called What We Look For. We're not hiding. We want you to know the type of students we're looking for. And, so hopefully you can find out whether you would like to be at MIT. And if so, here's how you would apply. And here's all the things that you should be prepared for if you want to be successful at MIT. So all of these are on our website. I just put it here so that it's in one place so people can just find it easily. And then here, I just want to share some recent statistics. MIT, we're blessed that we have a lot of interest. And not only do we have interest from students, we have interest from very talented students. So yes, we don't have 100,000 applicants. We don't want 100,000 applicants. We want the self-selected qualified applicants. So we've been averaging, roughly 29, 30,000 applicants post-COVID. And so here are some of the statistics. And as was mentioned earlier, we just released our class of 2030 early action last night. And our numbers there were 655 admitted students out of, roughly 11,883 applicants. The number of applicants declined very slightly. I think we were a little bit over 12,000 last year, but it's basically the same. So thanks to all the people who were on this meeting so far who helped us interview. So we cannot do it without you. I cannot tell you enough how many times my colleague in admissions tell me, wow, that was a great interview report. That really helped us figure out more. I know personally, I've definitely read many very good interview reports that help me better understand what is going on, with the student, with the school, with the country, etc. So thank you. And that is really all that I have, and I'll be happy to stop here and take questions. And it looks like there's quite a bit in there. So I guess I could start going through some of the chat just to make sure those
Yeah,
are.
I can I can do this if you want. I can help you with this. Except that got bounced and I don't have all the
uh,
all the questions. But I'll tell you some, and you can read too. One question that is asking about generally about admission. Uh, what kind of benchmarks people use? This competition, that competition, academics, someone who's done very well, and can you give a little sense of how an application is seen by the admissions committee, the totality of it? Just
that's a great question.
yeah, that's a good way to begin.
Yep. So
When an
that's
applicant comes in, what happens broadly?
mhm. So there is, we tell it as it is. There's no formula. We look at every single piece of information that, the applicant sends in, and because students are different. And this is why, I was skeptical before sometimes, like, how come there's no formula? Because while there's common sense, higher test scores are probably better than lower test scores, better grades are, you know, better than lower grades. So those are common sense. So those are true. But for one student's grades in a test, even though two students can have the exact same test score, it's not necessarily treated the same because we really look at the entire student and what the student has to face, the obstacles, the opportunities they took advantage or didn't take advantage. Those are very important in our assessment. Most people, we will look at the end results like test scores, competition results, things like that, awards. Those are end results, but we don't only look at end results. We also look at sort of, I call it the starting point. Well, what opportunities did you have? For one student, it's nearly impossible that they can even ever get to do something just because of where they are. But that doesn't mean they are not capable or they're not deserving, because given the opportunity that they have, they may be like kicking it, out of the ballpark in every sense of the word and beyond. So I think that's the hardest thing to understand is that context. And most people, when they see like, oh, I understand why this student got admitted from this high school, but that one didn't, because they're probably only judging the end results of those two students that may be more publicly known. But what they may not realize, there are other things going on that we absolutely will look into. I hope
Can,
that answers that question.
can I add to that? Just amplify what you said. Uh, I always ask in my interviews or tell people the the benchmark is what have you accomplished with what you have, resources, and so that's the kind of benchmark I think MIT and other schools look as. He says 1500 SAT score has different resonance depending on are you a single parent, modest income, different kind of situation, English as second language and others. So it's a totality of it. Two of my interviewees got in, admitted, early action. I know both of them. and both of them have remarkable life stories. You know how they got to where they got to, in spite of many things that they accomplished. So there are some questions on financial
Yes,
support.
I see some of those too.
One of them is, I mean, you can expand this. 200,000 is great, but you know, if you're in New York City, you know,
Sure. So,
is there some latitude in all these things, and you can expand on those?
right. So that's a great question. I failed to mention that just because you make a family makes more than 200,000, that doesn't mean you get no financial aid. Every family situation is going to be different. We only offer need-based scholarships. I saw that one question. We do not offer merit-based scholarship. All students and families are welcome to apply to merit-based scholarship on their own. But when MIT gives financial aid, it's all based on need, the financial need of the family, not based on merit. So absolutely, apply for financial aid. If you don't apply, you're not going to get it. So please apply to financial aid if you think, even if you make more than those thresholds. So absolutely do that. I also saw a quick question about the fact that I mentioned New York Times wrote about artificial intelligence being the second most popular major. MIT is very transparent. You could go to MIT's registrar webpage and see exactly how many students have declared each of our available majors. So you could do that now and see how many students currently have declared any of our majors as their primary major, as a second major, etc. So that's how anyone, and I think we also give historical uh, data in some cases as well.
So someone has asked E about what's a typical asset means in the financial, you know, support consideration. Maybe you have some insights, some
So
amplification.
that is something I guess is the question when I mentioned typical assets or something like that. That's something that's not defined and that's not on the web page because that is going to be very family by family unique situation. But we do say on our web page, we do not include your primary residence as part of your asset. We do not include your retirement assets as part of your assets. So things outside of those realms will be included, in your typical asset. But again, financial aid is a very unique family by family situation. So absolutely work with our financial aid office if you have questions about that.
So another one is about these interviews, you know, by the counselors and the reports. Someone asked, what do you mean by interview reports? You can speak to, there may be other education counselors here. They may speak to what they do, how they do. Maybe it's a nice
Sure.
simplification. Go ahead.
So interview is one of our components for our application. It is not required, mainly because we only rely on alumni volunteers, such as GK and others on this webinar to interview. So they're all alumni volunteers. Admissions officers cannot and do not interview. So we don't have a perfect, supply versus demand match between applicants and available volunteer interviewers around the world. So that's why it's not a requirement. And we do not penalize a student if they do not get an interview because it's not their fault that we couldn't find an alumni volunteer to interview them. And that's what we say on our webpage that, if you don't have one, don't worry about it. It's waived. You will not be penalized for not having one. And for those who do have one, we ask our alumni volunteer interviewers to submit a written report about their interview. And we do rely on those reports to help us, complete the picture of the student. Because as you can imagine, many parts of the application have limited space. So the student can only put a few sentences or a few paragraphs or, a few hundred words, and that's it. But in an interview, which can last, an hour or more, you can imagine how much additional information can be shared back and forth between our alumni volunteer and the student. So we will absolutely, look to that to try to gain information that will help us make our decision.
So, I'll say a little bit about what I do with these interviews and maybe others. But someone asked what you touched upon. Hey, in 200 words or 250 words, what insights can you gather, you know, from those prompts and questions? maybe you want to talk to that, and then I'll say a little bit my experience. So these prompts, these questions, short questions, answers that you get in the application, uh, they're relatively tight, as you yourself said. Are you able to get good insights from them? And how so?
Yeah, the way I would generalize the insights we get, the most important things we get are the information that we do not have. As I said before, our application is limited in space. So there's only so much an applicant can share. But in an interview, and then therefore via the report, we can learn so much more about the student, whether it's a project, whether it's the family, whether it's, something they're passionate about. I think generalizing, you can imagine from a common sense perspective how valuable such a report can be when they give us additional information that we do not have. So
But,
that's what I would
but,
say
but,
in
he,
general.
but you, as a reader of the application, forget the interview, as a reader of the application at MIT end,
Mhm.
are you able to get enough insights from those 200, 250 words, prompts and responses?
Well, it's hard to say just from one essay, so that's why we say we look at everything.
Okay.
When you look at everything, we think we have, especially if you do a good job. I always tell the students, your job is to tell us about yourself. You already know yourself. Your job is to tell us about you. So assuming the student did a, reasonable job in terms of telling us the things they want us to know, when we piece all of the things together, the essays, the activities, the, you know, other things they submit, the recommendation letters, we generally do get a pretty good idea of who they are, what they're interested in. Can we know more? Sure. And that's again, if I go back to the interview, that's where the interview can really help us because they give us more information that we did not have.
Okay. I'll speak to you a little bit. I've been doing interviews for the last 7, 8 years, something, and initially a lower number. Now I do a decent number of interviews. I did about 18 for the early action. 4 of them withdrew. They're part of a QuestBridge program. Those of you know, they obviously matched elsewhere. 2 of them got admitted. So I do open-ended conversations. I tell them I don't have any questions, not even one, forget 10. And I tell them, exactly, I'm telling you what I tell them, that this is an opportunity for you to augment the probability of admission, enhance, so you could speak to issues and matters that you addressed in the application. You can amplify them because you had limited space, and or maybe things that you want to speak to, but there's no prompt. I mean, there's no opportunity. So that's why I'm here as a scribe, as a listener, and I want to make notes. And I'll compose a report and share with MIT. I tell them that I want to, it's open-ended, but I do want to provide 3 or 4 buckets. One is what I call your family and faith and culture, what you are. I mean, single mom, rich, poor, whatever you want to describe yourself. And I tell them the context is very important for the reasons that he said. A 1500 reads differently with different contexts, naturally, as you appreciate. Then I tell them the other bucket is community engagement, what you do, what you don't in community. Then school itself as a community. I said I'm not that interested in my conversation about your GPA and SAT because they have those data from MIT. If you want, you can mention it as a footnote, but essentially other things that you may be doing in school. And finally, why MIT and what brings you, how you got to know. So those are 4 buckets that I use to kind of compose.
And I think
Context.
right. So thanks. I think that's a good segue to one of the questions from Tanishi. Hopefully we answer most of it. We don't have really hard cutoffs for requirement, so we don't have like GPA cutoff or SAT cutoff or requirement for any major. As I said, first year students don't even have a major. So, but other than common sense, a very low score, common sense would say makes it very difficult, or makes it harder for you to get in. But we're not going to have a cutoff just because a student may be exceptional in something else. So that's why we really look at everything that the student submits and then try to make a final decision. I also see a few questions about like financial aid, in terms of the difficult budget environment, will those continue? That's well above, my pay grade to know that, other than we definitely have been hearing how financial aid is one of our top priorities for MIT. So it's going to be something we really look to maintain and keep. Um, and let's see, some other questions. And in terms of like, again, sort of the current administration, say maybe particular to international students, I could say just personally, in my 6.5 years going through admissions committees, I have never had or heard people talk about politics or country like, oh, this student is from this country, so let's think about it. We really look at the student, and because it's the student whom we are looking to admit or not admit. So we are very much focused on the student, and politics has, in my experience, never entered into our decision process like that. And again, MIT, I think we're lucky. We have a great international student office that works with every international student, whether it's a visa question or some other questions they may have. So it's just one of the benefits that our students have, when they're on campus or even before they're on campus.
What do portfolios play, Maker and other portfolios? What role do they
Okay,
play in the admission process?
sure. So another component of our application, we call it creative portfolios. It's optional. Uh, and I don't actually know what percentage of our students submit them. Um, we know we have students who have been very focused or very accomplished in different areas. And we invite them if they feel like they have something they're very proud of, that's significant, that they want to share with us, that they can. And so they are in the areas of music, maker, art, and research. Each category is pretty broad. So when we say music, it includes instruments, it includes composition, it includes singing, theater. Art, it includes painting, drawing, architecture, sculpture. For maker, that is the broadest category. It includes writing software apps, web pages, robotic, design, making jewelry, making clothing. It's all of those things that you can make. And research is, it doesn't have to be published research. It's significant research that you feel proud of, that you want us to know about. So those are the areas that students can submit to us if they, feel that it's very important to them for us to know. And each one of these portfolios carry its own instructions. They have to answer additional questions. Some are essay-like questions, and some of them may require additional letter of recommendation. So it is work. So it is not like you just check the box and that's it. We ask the students to really seriously consider if something is, worthwhile to spend that time to go through to submit. And it is optional. And some students do submit it. And we also don't limit you to one category. So if you feel you have multiple categories that you want to submit, you can do that as well.
How can an applicant, improve the odds of getting an interview?
There is nothing, as I said, interview is not required. There's nothing the student needs to do. It's our job to try to find a match of available volunteer interviewer with the applicant. So there's nothing the student needs to do or actually can do. We just try our best to find an available volunteer interviewer.
Okay. Uh, any other questions? Anyone want to ask? Any comments? You can
Are those
go ahead.
so, PK, are those portfolios evaluated by a faculty member? Let's say an arts portfolio, a music portfolio, someone outside of the admissions office are reviewing those?
So there are professionals, whether it's faculty or experts, like if it's a maker, and you submit a computer project, we're lucky we're MIT, we have experts. So those are and can be reviewed by experts outside of the admissions office.
So someone asks about opportunities for high schoolers to be engaged with MIT? Any summer program, any internship program?
Or
Several of them. Go ahead.
yeah, if you go to one of our webpage, I think is if you Google MIT admissions summer programs, you will see a list of mostly STEM summer programs that our past students or current students have participated in. Very few are actually offered on campus. There's RSI, WTP, MITES. I think those are the three that jump out that are held on campus. But many of those programs listed that our students participate in are not affiliated with MIT and not held on campus. There's no requirement that you attend any of these programs. We simply list those programs because some of them are very good for students interested in those disciplines. And so again, in the spirit of transparency, we want applicants to be aware of them. So that's what we have. I do see hands up. Bill,
Yeah, go
I see
ahead.
your hand
Mark
up.
and Bill. Go ahead. Mark, go ahead. And then Bill.
Okay.
Mark?
Mark Harsh,
Mark?
maybe it's frozen.
He's frozen.
All right, how about Bill?
Bill?
Yes, please notice I posted a question about the admissions office gender balance policies and put some statistics up there. Could you please respond to that question?
So let me try to find that question.
Bill, please. I can't quite read it. Can you read it? To me, it's too small. Can you read it, E?
I know it's kind of
I see it here, a table that he has got, but I can't.
I'll read it for you.
Okay,
Is
Bill,
is it still the case that, number one, female undergraduate applicants have roughly twice the acceptance rate as male applicants? And two, does the admissions office still maintain that it does not artificially target a 50-50 gender balance in its incoming classes? It just happens to come out that way every year for the last 2 decades, even though twice as many males typically apply than females, because the pool of female applicants is consistently so much stronger than the pool of male applicants. Finally, would the admissions office ever release de-identified SAT scores for accepted and rejected students by gender to support the contention that it is not practicing gender discrimination?
So I think this question has been asked many times before. So I'm trying to remember like how Stu or others have answered it. So it is true. I think if you look at statistics, there are fewer female applicants than male applicants. But I think it's also true that there are very strong female applicants who apply. As I just said before, admission is not purely based on just one or few statistics like SAT scores or GPAs. So we look at everything that is submitted. And all decisions are made by committee. No single person can say the student is in or the student is out. We respect that, that's the rules that we set for myself and my colleagues for admission officers. And so all decisions are made by these committees that we all agreed to. So that is the process that we go through.
Okay, but you didn't answer the question. Does the admissions office target a gender balance, or does it just happen to come out that way every year?
So the way I would answer that is I'm not aware of a targeted. We go through student by student through those committees, and we make decisions on the individuals as they come up.
Thank you. Mark, can you speak now?
Yes, thank you. I was wondering about what I see as a very high level of deferrals in the EA process. And I did read an answer to that question on the MIT blog last night. And it still seemed to me that if indeed there are around 70 or 70% of that get deferred in EA, the answer to the question I read didn't seem to address it. It seemed that we could still weed out a lot more people and not have thousands of kids think they might still have a chance and really they don't. And they could direct their efforts elsewhere. So 7,000 seems high. Could you address that, please?
Sure. I would say we really, want to give every applicant, as many opportunities as possible. So, because if you make a decision like admit or deny, that's final, right?
Sure.
So we know things change and we've seen it. A student could have entered a competition. We don't know the result by mid-December, but then the results come in January or something. And lo and behold, I know this for a fact. I know a student, went from maybe average for MIT pool to getting some new updates, twice in January that completely changed the profile of the student. So it's for the benefit of those students that we give them the opportunity that things will change. So it is we take it very, very seriously for every final decision we make during early action, like a admit or deny, because we know that's final. So if there's a potential of something changing, we will defer.
So one question that broadly is, do you have different high schools have different levels of rigor, different policies in grading, the number of AP courses they allow, there's so much heterogeneity. So in your database, do you have an understanding and appreciation of benchmarking these high schools and how you would read the GPAs and related
Well,
academic
if you read our admissions website on how we select students, we are really student first. So what the student does is the most important for us because a student could be going to a school that has almost no resources, but is doing incredible things. So student first, but we absolutely will look at everything related to the applicant, and the school where they attend is an important thing as well. So we will absolutely look at that. But we are predominantly student-centric about things. And yes, we do know, averages of test scores or GPAs or APs by high school, et cetera. We do know those things. So we will factor those things as we see fit for it. And I see some of the back and forth on the chat. Just for example, SATs. I think we're blessed in that, so many of our applicants are quite good. Low SAT scores is not a challenging factor for our applicant pool. And that's why if you look at our average SAT scores for the past, how many years, it is quite stable. And it's just, I think we're lucky that we have very educated consumers who are choosing to apply or not apply to MIT based on their interest and what they think they want to get out of a college education.
Okay. Anyone has a last question or a comment before we close? Hands up. Anyone? No? Okay. E, maybe you have a closing thought. I'd say we see two new. Any questions here? What would you?
We do SuperScore.
Does MIT prefer SAT or ACT?
We don't care. Take whichever one is, more convenient for you.
Okay. So, is there any big insight? I want my child to apply. He's going to apply next year, or in 2 years from now. What's your big insight advice for my child? In two sentences.
There's no prediction for that I can make, other than this is what I tell everyone is, as great as an institution as is MIT with such opportunities, it is not the only place that a student needs to go to. There's so many other paths to success, to happiness. Just please pursue that for your child to, let them keep going. Also, I never, as I said, I'm a parent, I'm a mentor and advisor. I don't want these young, great people to peak in high school. I don't want them to peak in college. I don't want them to peak with their first job. I want them to peak many, many years down the road. So this is a very, very early stage of their life. So don't take it as this is the end if I don't get something. It is very much just the beginning. So if you think you succeeded now and stop, that might be the end for you. So please keep going. And as a parent or educator or mentor, keep encouraging them wherever they want to go. This is what we need. I am so, jazzed up, if you will, sometimes when I look at some of these applications and look at what the kids have done. Is simply incredible what some of these people have done. And I can't even believe they exist, but they have done it already, but they're just starting. So I really hope and I look forward to seeing what these kids will do in the future. And again, they don't have to do it only at MIT. We are blessed. We have so many great people, including these whole alumni panels right here. But, we just our mission is to make a better world. So let's help everybody to make a better world.
Okay. Thank you, E. I really appreciate you taking time. And we did this last year. There was a lot of interest. And again this year, almost 100 folks still online. And we had about 115 at the peak. That speaks to the serious and engaged interest in this topic and related. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of you for participating and joining us here. And have a great afternoon, evening, whatever it is.
Have a great happy holidays.
Happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Yi. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays again. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Bye-bye.